You ever stop and think about the phrases we used with each other, especially in the black community growing up? Like some phrases that we grew up using, like "you ain't never gonna be nothing." That's why niggas can't have shit. You acting too black, too niggerish. You talk too white, or you trying to act white. Damn, you got that nappy ass hair. Light skinned niggas always acting like they better. Your parents telling you, sit your black ass down. Don't you be trying to bring niggas up in here. Why you dressing like a street nigga? And we heard these phrases from relatives, heard it at the cookouts, we heard it at the block parties, and we laughed. But in reality, none of that shit was funny because all that sayings, all those phrases, it came from pain. And during this episode, we're gonna break this shit down. I'm your boy Will King, and this is the Misunderstood Podcast. Let's get it. Chicago. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's start to break this down. First and foremost, this didn't start with us. All that started during slavery, colonization. Our ancestors, past relatives, they were stripped of their names. They were stripped of their language. They were stripped of their own belief system, the identity of themselves. They were told that they were property and not people, told that their skin made them less than, and their features were ugly, and that their minds were incapable, and that their blackness was a curse. So over generations, right? And I'm not telling you guys some things that you guys haven't heard, but I just want to recap some of the things, right? Over generations, these traumas was passed down to us. And a lot of people don't really believe that trauma can be passed down, but I mean, look at our community. The proof is there. Trauma can be passed down through speech, what we say. You know, they got that saying, what you say, you can manifest. So for our great grandparents, we're taught that proximity to whiteness meant safety. Think about that. Ask anybody in your family. You say, hey, oh, yeah, yeah, I live such and such. Oh, I live in a good neighborhood. Automatically, in your head, you think if they live in a predominantly white area. Tell me I'm lying. They beat that survival code into our ancestors and into our great grandparents. And that same language and ideation was passed down to us. When they say speak proper, right? In translation, that just says hide your blackness. Don't act up in front of white folks. Code switch to survival. Don't be too loud, too proud, too much. Shrink yourself to stay safe. We say these things every day, but we never think about what it really means. What's the translation into those phrases? So what was once a tool for survival, because we're trying to survive during the oppression time, became a script for shaming us, putting us down, shaming our own. When society kept telling us that we were worthless, some of us turned that pain inward towards ourselves. We started whipping each other with the same words that they once used on us, but we dressed it up a little different, right? We dressed it up as, oh, that's tough love, or my nigga, I'm just joking, or you justify yourself by saying that's just how I was raised. Words that meant to break us down was passed down like family recipes, and the truth is, some of us is still cooking with them right now to this day. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself during my childhood and my upbringing during my family, right? Now, between the ages 5 and 10, right, those are pivotal stretch in a child's life. That's when a child starts putting things together, right? Start figuring out their own identity, who they are, and like what they're worth, and exactly how exactly do they fit in this world. And the words that we hear on a daily basis can stage on how we look at life and how we look at ourselves. So now imagine between those ages 5 to 10, and you're hearing phrases like "you too black" or "nappy headed" and "you ain't gonna be nothing" and "black people don't do that," "stop talking white," "don't be bringing niggas around here." At that age, you don't know the history behind that. You don't know the history behind those words. You don't know that those words came from colonization or from slavery or from oppression. All you know is that you're the target of those phrases. And that kind of language teaches a child shame before they understand pride. It teaches self-hate before they even have a chance to know who they are and how they love themselves. It plants the idea that your own people can't be trusted. And if I'm lying, ask yourself this, be honest with yourself. You know I'm not lying when I'm saying these things. You begin to get wounded by these things. And it's not from an enemy, it's coming from inside your own home. As for me, I started believing that being black came with limits. Even though I didn't know where those ideas really came from, if I'm being honest, I thought I had to shrink certain parts of myself just to be accepted, not just by the world around me, but within my own family and with my own black community. And because of that, I forced myself to tolerate some things that I should have never even accepted. You know, I allowed myself to be treated in ways that were demeaning, dismissive, um, less than. As long as it wasn't too disrespectful, I let the shit fly. Had been passed down to me that this is just how people like us are, and that I deserve this. Fuck it, we deserve this. And it wasn't until later I realized I was prejudiced too. There came a point, and it was quite uncomfortable, where I had to sit down and not think of myself as just a victim of the language I grew up hearing. Bro, I started using it. I started to be the oppressor, the aggressor. But sometimes it was just in how I looked at my own people. It reminded me of things that was said to me at home. Sometimes it was the way I distanced myself from certain places, certain type of blackness, from the way someone talked, how they dressed, um, or carried themselves. And I just justified it by saying things like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, saying things like, oh, they doing too much, or I'm not trying to be around that type of energy, or man, god damn it, they make us look bad. But truthfully, if I'm being honest, truthfully, I was just repeating the same shit, the same judgment that was handed down to my great grandparents, my grandparents, my ancestors onto me. I learned, I had learned to look at my own people with suspicion. I had I learned to look at my people with embarrassment. At sometimes, I'll be honest, with resentment at times. And that was the worst part. That was definitely the worst part. I didn't even recognize that what I was thinking and how I was judging and things I was saying was prejudice at first because it didn't look like hate. It looked like I had a preference, right? And like I was setting standards. And like I would say to myself, I'm just trying to do better than what they doing. But all of that was just rooted with the same lie, right? That being fully unapologetically black was something to avoid. Man. And I had to perform a version of myself where that I would be more acceptable even to my own people. And I had to face this shit. I wasn't just like avoiding others. I was avoiding parts of myself. Me trying to avoid that blackness. That's me. That's part of me. That's part of you. And it was the hard truth, but me recognizing that, the point where I recognized my prejudice, that was the first step of actually healing, trying to heal, because you can't heal unless you know exactly what you're trying to heal from. So what I'm saying now, here's my CTA. All right. So what do we do with all this that I said, right? Well, it's very simple. We try and heal. Healing starts when we start relearning who we are, who I am, not from the lens of like trauma, but through the truth. What is the truth? Well, I learned by doing some research, reading, watching videos, anything that I can do to educate myself on the history of my people and what that entailed and how that can empower me. Because our history doesn't start with slavery. That's American history. We go further beyond that. The same, we come from kings and queens, but we also come from builders, scientists, warriors. We come from a lot. We come from visionaries. But if you don't know your history, we'll just keep repeating the same shit over and over again as we've been doing so for these last few decades or generations, I should say. That's why we've got to do something called a language detox. A language detox. Start listening to the words that you're saying. And then the words that you say, ask yourself where that shit come from. If you catch yourself repeating the same harmful shit, stop for a second. Take a breather. Ask yourself, who taught me that shit? And what I'm saying, do I really believe it? We got to start talking to our family members too. That's going to be the toughest thing, talking to our family members. But when you talk to them, when you press them, come with them with compassion. Don't blame them, but come with them with compassion and have questions and see if you guys can figure this shit out. Because most of the things that's passed down to you, it's been passed down to them. You're not the only victim of this. Everybody's a victim of this. And we don't have to talk to each other in that language anymore. We don't have to do that. I know it's cool, street, with rap, with street talk, and with now it's in like corporate world. All these things are all around us that's kind of pushing the agenda. We need to detox that and get away from that. And that's why I'm starting to call a new movement that's called Reword Us. Right? Reword Us. That's going to be the challenge. And how it's going to work is take one phrase, one toxic, racist, bigot phrase that you heard growing up, and rewrite it into something that builds us up or build yourself up. Instead of you gonna never be nothing, be like, yo, you got greatness in you. And if you need help, I got you. Something simple like that. But for some people, it's going to be difficult because this is engraved in you guys so deeply that you don't know that you are suffering from a disease. So I want you guys to do this. Write a phrase that you grew up with that was negative, rewrite it, hashtag it, reword us, and post it. Thank you guys for tapping in today. I can't thank you enough for those of you that listened to this whole video. This conversation wasn't really easy for me. As you see, I have a lot of things jot down. I have notes that I wanted to make sure that I touched on. And but it was definitely necessary. Now I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear those harmful phrases that you heard that I might have overlooked or I might have missed today, and share your thoughts on it. Hashtag reword us. And let's keep this conversation going because together we can change some shit. We can do this. All right. Peace, love, and happiness. I'm your boy, Will King, and this is the Misunderstood Podcast. Peace.